What do you get when you take the most sold video game of all time and combine it with the highest earning franchise of all time? You get a knock on the door from one of the most lawsuit-happy companies of all time, leading to a takedown that rocked the very core of one of Minecraft's biggest communities, aka you get Pixelmon. This Pokemon-themed mod may have had millions of frequent players back in the day, but in the blink of an eye, it was almost never seen again. Despite copyright infringements and community outlash, Pixelmon has turned into a time bomb that simply refuses to go off. Today, we'll discuss the rise and fall of Pixelmon, the many versions that competed for mod supremacy, and what the history of Pixelmon means for the modding community today. In the world of Minecraft mods, there are a lot that may come to mind. Few stood out above the rest, but for many, Pixelmon is at the very top of that list. But what exactly is Pixelmon? Well, the original Pixelmon mod was released on April 21st, 2012 for Minecraft version 1.2.5. The premise was simple: make Minecraft a vessel to play Pokemon in an open world setting. Any child's dream come true, especially because Pokemon games such as Sword and Shield or Arceus had yet to come out. And for being so early in the grand scheme of Minecraft modding, it had an insane amount of content. Complete and robust updates came every few weeks for almost 5 years. These consisted of hundreds of Pokemon that spawned depending on biome and time of day, apricorns to farm and harvest for making Pokeballs, and trainers that spawn randomly throughout the world. Gyms, marts, centers, ores, custom crafting recipes, bosses with unique drops, battling your friends in multiplayer, and much, much more. It's honestly no wonder that Pixelmon quickly became the face of modded Minecraft for many. I mean, come on, it's Pokemon meets Minecraft, a world where you can catch them all while building your dream blocky universe. It's like someone tossed Pikachu into a crafting table and out popped a whole new adventure. But the average Minecraft player wasn't the only one taking advantage of this mod. It took no time for the biggest Minecraft YouTubers in the world to try their hand at Pixelmon Let's Plays, which is where we'll dive a little deeper. In the era of Let's Play style content succeeding on YouTube as a primary, Minecraft content creators like Bayesian Canadian, Jerome ASF, Husky Mudkips, Sunday, and many more quickly racked up millions of views with their Pixelmon content, leading to some of these creators having Let's Play series that lasted for more than 100 episodes. And while the mod at the time looked like, well, this, for the time, it was still incredibly innovative and engaging. This was a way to play both Pokemon and Minecraft like never before. And why did Pixelmon become a hit amongst Minecraft YouTubers? Well, probably because catching Pokemon and crafting blocks made for a million-view adventure. Even outside of content creation, Pixelmon became a shared community for people to play and pay on servers, enjoy a more vanilla survival experience, or even roleplay with an incredibly fervent group of players. Quickly, with the amount of attention and attraction Pixelmon had, it was able to update and evolve faster and faster. From pixelated beginnings to a genuinely stunning game. Talk about super effective. While on top of the world, with millions of lifetime players, Pixelmon seemed like a mod that was going to thrive for a long time. That was until the development team posted a shocking message to their community forum. July 13th, 2017. A somber post reads, "With much sadness, but keeping all our fond memories, we must announce that Pixelmon is ending its development. After a request from the Pokemon Company, we will be shutting our doors." The end of an era. Unfortunately, it shouldn't be too surprising. Nintendo is notorious for sending these cease and desists to creators that use their IP for fan content. You might find it curious to understand that Nintendo has a credible reason for doing this from their perspective, which we'll touch on later. But whatever your thoughts on Nintendo and the extent to which they go to protect their properties are, most parties on the receiving end, like Pixelmon, either fight and fail or gracefully step back, which is what the Pixelmon team ultimately decided was the best decision to make. Thankfully, there was no retaliation, no desire to go to court, no determination to stand against Nintendo. And it seems Nintendo ultimately felt the same way. This was a closed case that would never need to see court. But it also was a truly sad day for Pixelmon fans everywhere. The community, though? Well, they refused to take this lying down. Questions started being asked. Why did Nintendo take so long to send this cease and desist? Pixelmon was clearly a big enough deal to be on Nintendo's radar, surely. It was one of the biggest mods for one of the most played games in the world, after all. Also, did the mod itself constitute, quote, fair use? Well, kind of. Look, another YouTuber on the platform explained it best.
Japan doesn't have any fair use or its copyright law. There's no such thing as fair use in Japan. None. Doesn't exist. So with that in mind, if Nintendo wants to go after you, if you're in the US or Europe or anywhere else, because you're showing off Nintendo stuff, they have every right to, because there's no fair use in Japan. They can stop you from doing that. They've done it many, many times. It may feel unsavory, but that's within their purview to do so.
So, while at the end of the day, the mod creators themselves distributed it for free, and it could be considered parody content, it sometimes ultimately boils down to international law and the rights of the companies under them. The fan base did everything they could to make change. A petition with almost 20,000 signatures was created in order to, quote, keep the Pixelmon mod alive. Even many articles were written announcing and discussing the news. None of it changed the situation, though. The mod team had made up their minds. Pixelmon had a great run. Millions of players found thousands of hours there. YouTubers grew their channels exponentially with the content it provided, and it set landmarks for what the Minecraft modding community could do. Pretty soon, all versions of Pixelmon, all the way up to version 5.1.2, would be taken off any website for download. And with that, the chapter of Pixelmon ended, and the book closed. Or did it? On December 26, 2017, only 5 months after the official shutdown of the Pixelmon mod, it suddenly returned with a version 6.0. Previously, Pixelmon ran on Minecraft version 1.10. Now it ran on a much more optimized version, 1.12.2. This return also introduced nearly 200 additional Pixelmon, as well as items, commands, and tons of changes and fixes to make Pixelmon surpass its former glory. Pixelmon seemed to have returned with a bang, now boasting more Pokémon and upgrades than ever before. Talk about a legendary comeback. So what was going on here exactly? Why was Pixelmon returning after what everyone thought was its permanent shutdown? Well, first off, this wasn't the same team that created the original Pixelmon mod. It actually wasn't even called the same thing anymore. With a brand new download site and title, the Pixelmon mod's direct sequel was Pixelmon Reforged, a version that took over the Pixelmon landscape for years. This new mod was being endorsed as a true and faithful follow-up to the original Pixelmon mod. Even the official Pixelmon mod website had links and version histories linking directly to Pixelmon Reforged. There seemed to be no argument that the Pixelmon everyone knew and loved had inexplicably returned. But the community didn't seem to mind. Pixelmon had evolved into Pixelmon Reforged. Same essence, snazzy new title. And so no one asked any questions. They were just happy to have Pixelmon back. At this point, the path forward looked like smooth sailing, until competition came along. Like the timeless rivalry of Red vs. Blue in the original Pokémon games, less than 2 months after the release of Pixelmon Reforged, a new Pixelmon mod rival was also released. This was Pokémon Generations. On February 14th, 2018, the creators of Pixelmon Generations released their mod as a clear competitor to Pixelmon Reforged. It seemed to pick up where the original mod left off, and was updated at a rapid rate. So in the minds of the community, the question quickly became, which one was better? Pixelmon Generations and Reforged both sought to do similar things. Take the concept of the original Pixelmon mod and update it until it was as full and polished as possible. The goal was to make the most complete Pokémon experience in Minecraft. These two new mod teams knew what they were doing, but they went about creating their mods in different ways. Generations, for example, added to Pixelmon at breakneck speed by immediately introducing as many Pokémon as possible to the roster, a complaint people people always had about the original Pixelmon mod. Items, mechanics, GUI updates, multiplayer immersion, and so much more were driven to their absolute limits, all within a very short amount of time for the Generations mod. Later, we'll see how this may have been a double-edged sword. Meanwhile, Reforged, as stated before, is a direct sequel. It was careful, optimized, and stable. This team did everything they could to make their mod correctly. The updates were smaller but frequent. Being the successor to the original Pixelmon mod and all, it didn't have as much to prove. The loyalty was already there. But in the midst of these two mods competing with one another, in 2019, a huge shift in the Minecraft atmosphere had finished brewing. Over the span of a year, these two Pixelmon teams worked hard on making their mods as amazing as possible. At the end of the day, though, Minecraft was nowhere near as popular as it was in the peak of the original Pixelmon mod's lifetime. Better or not, these mods would survive only due to a small and adamant fan base. But that all changed in 2019, when PewDiePie, Dream, and many more factors led to a giant resurgence in the Minecraft player base. Luckily enough for Pixelmon, that meant a huge return to playing modded Minecraft with your favorite pocket monsters as well. Pixelmon dusted off its Pokeballs and jumped back into action faster than a Charizard fleeing from a sprinkler. This Minecraft boom led to swarms of people coming back to Pixelmon. It became huge on servers again. And on top of that, the rivalry between Reforged and Generations became that much more important. Even the mod teams worked endlessly to polish and add to their versions of Pixelmon as much as possible. And not before too long, an absolute titan format for Pixelmon content was created on YouTube, surviving 100 days in Minecraft Pixelmon. The history of 100 days content on the YouTube platform could be its own video, but for now, all you need to know is that 100 days is a YouTube video format recapping a player spending 100 Minecraft days in-game, which is approximately 33 real-life hours. Usually this is done with a certain set of rules or challenges that make their videos unique. This could be anything from hardcore to multiplayer, or even, in this case, a mod like Pixelmon. While it may or may not have had a substantial impact on the player base of Pixelmon, videos were seen to get upwards of 5 million viewers, easily competing with the most popular Pixelmon content ever created. I mean, seriously, surviving 100 days in Pixelmon racked up views faster than a Jigglypuff puts people to sleep. Who knew 33 hours in Minecraft could be this entertaining? While this seemed like a potential new golden era for Pixelmon, in 2022, Pixelmon Generations would create their final update. The debate for best Pixelmon mod was no longer needed. At this point, Generations did all they wanted to do and decided to call it quits. Reforged, with their strategy of stability and consistency, pushed forward, using updated versions of Minecraft and adding content patches when appropriate. Generations was never able to get past Minecraft version 1.12.2. Overcoming the obstacles of making the mod workable in newer versions of Minecraft was just never in the cards for Generations. They started in 2018 and would eventually release their very last update on May 29th, 2022. Despite Minecraft version 1.18 having been released at that time, they were still stuck almost 5 years behind. So while Pixelmon Generations had officially left the scene, Reforged slowly kept progressing. With no competition and little need for substantial updates, Pixelmon found itself at a crossroads. It seemed everyone that was going to had played it at this point. The updates Pixelmon was receiving weren't necessarily drawing the same amount of players back in every time it received one. At the end of the day, this was just a more jam-packed and polished version of the same game people played 10 years ago. If anything, Pixelmon served as a nostalgia trip. Create a server, invite some friends, and play in a private world until you get bored a few days later. Yes, Pixelmon, the virtual equivalent of your favorite childhood toy that you rediscover in the attic. Fun for a bit until you realize it's still just a glorified Tamagotchi. The interest was honestly just not there. The game had become stagnant and had no way to progress in any direction that would give a meaningful boost to the life of Pixelmon. That was until a new Pixelmon hit the scene. Or should I say, Cobblemon. On November 6, 2022, happy birthday to me by the way, the alpha version of a brand new Minecraft Pokemon mod was released. For the first time in a decade, someone had the goal of reimagining what a Pokemon mod could be, and it was going to be good. Let's be clear, this wasn't Pixelmon anymore. Cobblemon sought to do something totally different. While the original Pixelmon mod wanted to use Minecraft as a way to play Pokemon, Cobblemon focuses on Pokemon, adding a more balanced and subtle addition to the Minecraft Minecraft experience, similar to most popular mods. No longer was the survival side of Pixelmon basically irrelevant. Cobblemon focused on combat, mining, crafting, and so much more. The concepts were similar, but the feeling of the game was completely different. Take the Pokemon models, for example. In Pixelmon, they had incredibly high poly counts, making them look as realistic as possible. The creators of Cobblemon went against the grain and made them all simpler voxel models in order to make them actually fit the feeling of Minecraft. On top of that, they weren't just stagnant monsters with low frame rates. They had incredibly diverse and lively animations for anything from sleeping to fainting. Some classic Pixelmon players may miss structures and trainers in Cobblemon, or even the sheer amount of Pokemon you can find in the world. But for many, that's a good thing. Don't forget, Cobblemon is meant for Minecraft players, not just Pokemon fans. Welcome to Cobblemon, where Minecrafters reign supreme. The official release of Cobblemon was December 31st, 2022, and is still being updated frequently to this day. It would seem as if the torch has been handed off. Cobblemon has an incredibly bright future, and Pixelmon is all but a dying flame. Pixelmon isn't just going to lay down and die, but it's difficult to ignore the threat Cobblemon presents to it. All Pixelmon can do at this point is keep updating, and don't get me wrong, they're making great progress. There is still a consistent stream of new Pokemon, items, cosmetics, collectibles, cities, and structures being added to the game, some of them being absolutely beautiful, but when it comes to bringing players back, I just don't think it'll be enough. Cobblemon is revolutionizing the game, while Pixelmon is just trying to keep up. At the end of the day, it doesn't matter how good Pixelmon is, people will move on. That's video game culture. We can't expect a large audience to play the same game forever. That's the entire reason Minecraft modding exists, to provide the player with new opportunities to explore unique ways to play the game. Cobblemon is the first new way to play a Pokemon mod in years. The question really is whether or not Pixelmon can find a way to do that as well. There really is only one concern left: the cause of Pixelmon's downfall in the first place. The biggest threat to Pokemon modding right now isn't interest or developments, it's Nintendo. Don't forget that Pixelmon was once big enough to be forced to shut down due to a cease and desist. Cobblemon is getting pretty huge itself, so why haven't they had the same fate? Is it just a matter of time? Does Nintendo just not care? Or has Cobblemon succeeded in evading one of the most litigious companies in the world? We know Nintendo isn't just going to lie down forever. Look at the giant release of the hit game Palworld, a game many consider to be a Pokemon ripoff. Within just days, it was modded to have Pokemon assets, and in no time at all, Nintendo immediately jumped on it, having it taken down within an instant. Looks like Palworld learned the hard way that you don't mess with the Nintendo. Only time will tell what happens. Perhaps Pixelmon will fight its way back, making a second rivalry for best Pokemon mod. Cobblemon could continue to evolve and revive Pixelmon with it. Who knows? Pixelmon could die out as a whole, putting Reforged to rest alongside Generations. Or maybe, just maybe, another creation will come along that revolutionizes Pixelmon, opening a new chapter and bringing it back to its former glory. And thanks for subscribing to Crafting History.